we could work on the plan and get you a pre-advanced copy before the public hearing.
I want to I'll make some general comments about, the papers and stuff I've read, and again, this one compared to the last proposed project we had. I like the fact that this one here is really being really cautious on the active farmland for, the tillable farmland is for the terms I've always used. This project here looks way better to me on that aspect than the last one. The other concern I haven't, that I had in the last one was neighbors and what their thoughts on it. I'm sure we're going to start hearing from that shortly. I mean, I have taken time and talked to them. What have you, because this is basically for you guys, what have you guys done up to this point here to try to, have you talked to neighbors? What have you done to try to ease neighbors' concerns, or what are your, because I can tell you, I know that there's several neighbors that are not for this, and, as a board member myself, I cannot, if you got all the neighbors not wanting it, I cannot go against what the neighbors want. So you guys got quite a workload over you, in my opinion, to find a way to get enough of those neighbors to say, we're comfortable with this. And I'll be right up front and say, I won't be for it if they're not. That's where I don't like to play a lot of games. So I will be right up front and say that.
Can you go over some?
Yeah, I'd like to hear
Yes,
what you.
absolutely. So originally I sent a couple letters to the direct abutting neighbors to get their input. I heard from a couple I have not heard from. After the last meeting, we had a conversation in the lobby with a couple of the neighbors as well. They addressed us with some concerns that they had, possible visibility, possibility of a fire potentially. And I think one of the biggest ones was the stormwater, and another one was what happens to the water in regards to their own well water. Since then, I've sent a couple letters to the neighbors. I haven't heard since that meeting. And I did give my business cards. Ryan did as well. And Mike, who was another one of our team members here at the last meeting, gave out business cards, and we have not received a call since. But we are here willing to work with everyone, and we want to make it work. And we're very open to suggestion, and we're very flexible to make it work as best we can.
So what's different about this project than the other one is you guys are actually talking about owning the property.
Yes, yes,
Is your intention to own it for the full 25 years until the point it's decommissioned?
Yes.
Without selling it off to somebody else?
correct. We will be the property owners throughout the lifetime of the project.
Well, I have, so at the end, you'd resell it. Or you're, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out.
After decommissioning, we'd return it to its natural state and either just simply let it be and own it, or potentially sell it off. Most likely, we'd just let it sit.
Now, is this? I want to make sure I understand it right now. Is this like got a for sure sunset where it be commissions, or what could you like change and put newer, more modern things on and keep it going for, I mean, is this like, is there a way that, because to me, it makes, once you've had the infrastructure there, when these panels become less productive, it seems like, technology, you're gonna have way better panels 15 years from now. You're gonna probably say, oh, these panels are gonna put out twice the electricity than the ones you put up. It seems like you would say, well, rather than to be looking for other places to put more solar farms, you'd be wanting to keep them going in the same place and change out the panels, and that would seem to me these solar farms to me don't seem, I don't look at them as a 20, 25 year gone. I see this as a power plant that is going to produce power as long as solar is productive enough, and it should keep improving. I mean, I see this as a solar farm, pretty much forever. The way I look at it now, yes, if it didn't work or solar doesn't turn out to be as productive, it can be taken down and it can go back to its regular state. But I don't really believe that would be the productive to do that. What's your comments on that?
So the programs that we use and the funding we get from the programs are only meant to be 25-year programs. And the panels themselves only have a lifetime of 25 years. And I know, like you said, in 10 years, it's highly likely that there's much more efficient panels. But at that time, I don't believe it would be possible for us to take all of them off, put the new panels on, especially, I believe we would even need approval to do so as well.
I guess the important part is that those programs have an end date.
Yes,
It runs out after that. Basically, the funding that they're getting from the program won't be there to re-up at the end of that lifespan.
Well, I'm with him. It just doesn't make any sense to put together such a program that's supposed to benefit only to decommission it after 25 years because a program ends. What's the program that's ending? I mean, solar is solar, and if it's working to generate energy, then it can continue to do so. What's the program?
It seems like it's a
bigger program.
Productive, it has to be.
Correct. It's how we get the money from a NYSERDA and the utility company, be part of the VEDAR program, and they compensate us for the generation of the power.
Now, is it, if you only go, now, you know, I can see maybe you'd have to get, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the law reads. If you have to, do you have to get approval to change? Do they have to get approval to change panels out or would they, or could they just?
I don't think our code specifically says whether they need to get approval. I think that's probably a part of the site plan approval process. They will put a condition on the site plan that if you're changing out one panel, that's one thing. If you're changing out 50% of your panels, that's another thing. And I believe the planning board would probably put a condition on any modifications to the site plan, including new panels, to come back for modification to the site plan.
I know there is a law that only be, you know, it can only be grown by a certain amount, but because of the acres they have here, there is no room for, you know, because of the 50% thing, there's no room on this particular proposal for it to grow. It doesn't sound like to me.
Well, that would be a site plan, actually. We're talking about two different things.
Right.
You're talking about changing out existing panels on an existing site plan, which is different than changing the footprint of the solar array farm. That's definitely going to require a different site plan approval.
Can I ask, I'm just gonna try and clarify something, because in the previous presentations, there was a misconception, but am I correct? The power that gets generated from this gets sent back to the substation in Jamesville, is that correct?
It's the Southwood substation.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And then gets mixed in with generation from other entities and then sent back out, because when we went through the previous proposal, there was this perception that the area surrounding the proposed project actually gets supplied with power, which just want to clarify that now, because we get into these things in the public hearings and people start assuming that, and it's not the case.
It just feeds the full grid.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And there's no, and it is pretty much. No, I mean, there's no direct, you know, reduction of any of power bills for the people that are closest to it or anything like that. It does not affect that.
That's correct.
Just wait, this is just producing energy and going into the grid to provide more electricity.
That's correct. New York actually ended the community solar program, so that we're not able to. It's an option anymore. So this would be the other option, which is pumping it straight into the grid in this station.
So what's the benefit to the community if we go ahead with this project?
So the benefit to the community would be any tax revenue from the project that is generated from the project is in high usage times, us generating power to the grid would create a more sustainable and reliable network in the local area. And
And to add to that, the property would go back to existing condition once the project's over. So wouldn't be any permanent additional police or fire services or school buses, traffic.
Did you speak up?
So I'm just saying there's not gonna be any additional services needed. You know, rather than if it was like a subdivision for housing or something.
Would you consider host community agreement?
Yes.
And what was that?
A host community agreement, which would be an agreement that they would enter into with the town. To provide incentives, for projects that the town would, work out with the developer.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Go ahead. There's probably gonna be lots more questions after we hear from the public on their questions. Since that's really the questions that are gonna need to be answered, and so, and this is the first one, and other than what little bit I've heard from the planning board, I know there's gonna be lots of comments from the public, so I believe there's gonna be a lot more questions and thoughts, but I personally think it's, and that'll probably come in as public comment and other meetings, obviously, there's gonna be questions that are gonna be generated from that. So I would. Let's see what he has.
Where are you in the process with your interconnect agreement and where would the interconnect be?
The interconnection would be right in front of the property on the three-phase lines in front of the property. And we have an agreement with National Grid and we've made our 25% payment already. So we are guaranteed space on the lines.
And you say you're gonna own the property, like, who's gonna, is there, did you form an entity to own the property?
Yes, it would be Frank Long Road Solar.
For the members of Frank Long Solar?
I would have to get those to you. I can send those over before the next meeting.
One person, is it many people, is it a company?
I believe it would be our company Seaboard Holdings, but I'm not certain.
How many projects you own today?
Individual projects? A lot. I'm not sure to a precise number, honestly.
No, I like.
There's 300
Probably
megawatts.
3 dozen, I would say.
Yeah,
But that's just a rough estimate.
How about in New York State?
New York State. We are in the process of developing 100 megawatts with about half of that scheduled for construction in the next month or two.
15 to 15.
15?
Yeah.
Kim, was your question whether they own those properties
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Own each one of those properties?
The work of
We
property.
form a separate LLC for each one of them?
Yes, we do.
We're in the process of acquiring, we don't own them all exactly at this time, but as we develop them, we close.
So you won't own it unless this goes through. Is that the way?
That's the way it's structured.
Kind of got an agreement to purchase and do this.
Contingent on approval.
If this got approved, it doesn't get approved. So the landowner gets the money from selling it to, and then at the end, it's just sold back on the open market, or is there something where it goes back to that landowner? I'm still trying to wrap my head
We're gonna
around
hold
this.
the property through the life of the project.
25 years from now, so.
Yeah.
I don't think.
We haven't been there
25
yet.
years.
The intention is to hold it and potentially sell it. Most likely hold it though.
Hold it, sell it, or you could keep it, or whatever else.
Right. Right.
That was one of our concerns is, what's to stop you from 10 years from now selling it to a different company? It's.
Well, they
they're gonna
obviously
own it
can,
For the
yeah.
whole 25.
Well, they could, but they
Yeah.
don't have. to.
Well, that's something we have to think about, right? We have to think about covenants and we have to think about all kinds of.
Decommission plans. and-
Well, the decommission plan isn't a law, but if the board is very, one of the conditions of the board is you have to own this for the entire length of the project, then we have to consider how that's possible. I can't tell you today
Right.
that that is possible, because we don't normally, but, state does not favor, depriving people of the right to sell their property. So,
Okay. Think we're good. Thank you for coming in, making the presentation. Could we consider, setting a public hearing? And if we do that, would it be at the next board meeting? I'm a rookie, remember.
Yeah, me too.
well, let's,
So if we did it at the next town board meeting, typically, does that mean we start early? Or something this significant?
It's just, it's part of the same time at being it,
so if you're interested in setting the date for a public hearing, it would be the 14th.
No, is it best to have it? Actually, I mean, I know I'm not here that, I'm gonna miss that meeting particularly myself, because I'm out of town, but, but it's fine if I have it, I'm assuming there will be more than one public hearing meeting, so.
And it will be recorded.
It'll be recorded, I'll get all the stuff, so, but it's probably the easiest for all the board members is to do it on the, right during a regular meeting.
So Nikki, the only issue is we don't have a local law drafted tonight for the public hearing. I can have one drafted, or you can put in the paper for the course of the next week. If that's the board's desire, you can direct me to draft a local law between now and next week, and we will,
Local law, the notice of the meeting is what you're talking about.
well,
He has to have a law to hold a public meeting.
another,
Public hearing.
in order for the,
Oh, yeah, we have to
have to have
put
a-
it to public
Yes.
hearing, or that's right, I thought,
so
this stuff.
This is a motion.
So this will require a change to the town code, actually the zoning map of the town code. So I need to draft a local law that would actually do that. I can do that within the next week or so, if you direct me to, and that would be what we would notice in the paper for the public hearing. It's not going to tell you anything other than where the property is. It's going to define the property. It's going to say the town board wants to change, amend the zoning map of the town to do that, and that's what you hold the public hearing on. That will be the actual document that the public hearing will be held on, and it will provide all of the attachments. And what's really important, what the public is going to want to see is the application and the maps, and that will all be on the website.
Right, our options are, and I'm trying to remember from last time, the options are, you could just say. No, or we move on to the public hearing, and we have that drafted, correct? Isn't that's pretty much where unless we had some more specific things we wanted to require to move ahead with that.
I think one of the issues that we talked about tonight is making sure we have a stormwater pollution prevention plan and available to us before the public hearing.
Okay, so my question.
Is that possible before the next meeting, or should we wait?
Timeline might not work then.
So my question is exactly that. Is March 14th too soon?
Maybe
Or
we
is-
should,
Is that timing good?
do we want to look at the water, at that,
Stormwater.
do we want to look at that next meeting and then schedule a public hearing after that? To give you the time to draft up the laws, is that the better way to do it?
That would be the preferable way. I'm sorry.
Let's do it that way then.
Agreed? Okay,
Whatever's best.
okay, so
So
Let me just get a clarification on that then. So then for the next meeting, we would need to provide a preliminary slip explaining the stormwater mitigation efforts. And then from that point, that's where you would.
Set the date for a public. Yes.
So there won't be a public hearing next one. Then we visit this, then
So we'll be on the agenda for the next meeting, but it won't be a public hearing.
yes.
correct. Very good. Thank you again
Okay.
for coming and very informative. Thank you, board members. Great question.
And by the way, board can hold a public hearing on a night that is not a town board night, and they can make it exclusive. They can make public hearing exclusive to that.
They want to do that.
Drag out.
So, yes.
Yeah, that's my concern because you're gonna, do you have an anticipated start date that you were looking for to get this project rolling?
For construction,
Yeah,
it would have to be after October due to the northern long-eared tree clearing.
oh, we had time, that's perfect.
Right, and so I would suggest that the board consider a separate meeting. Because it's not going to be 20 minutes, half an hour. It's going to be prolonged. You don't want the public to feel like they were given short shrift
Yep,
in this.
that's probably a good idea.
Okay. Good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. Another one here, you want? It's probably in our packets.
Yeah, that's probably.
Thank you. Okay, moving on the agenda, we're going to, seeking to appoint Debbie Rapp as clerk one, position in the town clerk's office. And it would be retroactive to January 1st of this year. It was supposed to be on the last agenda, meeting agenda, but it didn't get on it.
Make that motion. Retroactive to January 1st.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed?
I'll explain that real quick to the public in
Yes.
case there's questions on that. That's, it was. The deputy clerk we have was only available certain times, and if there was the issues. Still, Debbie was kind of secondary backup. It's not a, secondary backup. Yeah, Bill.
So Nikki, I think you're next up on the agenda.
Are we good? Tim
Oh,
first?
no, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The second mistake of the night.
You're good.
I think everybody's received a copy of the supervisor's report. It's more of an abbreviated report versus what you're used to receiving. We're still in the process of implementing the new Williamson Law Book software. Went to a few roadblocks with the software vendor themselves, so we're a little bit behind where we thought we'd be at this point in time. But we're moving in the right direction. To date, all the property tax, at least the town share, has been received. Currently, in our NICLAS account, approximately 1.85 million. The checking account's $4.1 million. Of that, in the NICLAS account, $683,000 of the ARPA funds is still intact. Very little has been spent to date of that. Tom Chartrand just filed yesterday the annual update document with the state of New York. I need to ask the board to approve of filing a notice of filing with the AUD in the town newspaper.
I'll make a motion that you can file that.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Done.
Other than that, we did receive large chunk of the Onondaga County grant towards the preserve drainage project, $100,000, which was subsequently dispersed to JJ Lane. That project is more or less complete, minus some punch list items cleanup at the end of in the springtime. So some retainage that's held back. It will be paid once the project is fully complete.
That's it.
That's all I have.
I think so. We've still got a couple of those up here.
Yeah, we'll just-
Okay.
Discuss after the meeting. We go for that.
It's now the time.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm looking for a motion to accept the bank reconciliation reports for town clerk and tax collector.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
And second,
I'll Ann second it.
any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Pass.
Board acceptance of the December 28th regular meeting minutes and the January 4th organizational meeting minutes and the January 4th regular meeting minutes draft.
Those minutes.
All in favor?
And I prepared vouchers for all of the abstracts, so a motion for the payment of bills.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Okay,
That's all I have.
we're done.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I kind of hate to say it, but we're in really good shape with salt and sand. Waiting for the other ball to drop here, but all in all, we're started our spring services on everything. We've done some ditching today and we're way ahead of schedule as of right now. No change.
The 4 or 5 feet of snow to go.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
All we got.
Right here.
And Diana hasn't bothered me much this year. The bus garage.
About 5 a.m. phone calls and I learned how to text you.
Yes, you have.
All right, very good. Thanks. And our codes officer. Here.
No, I think he left a report right in front of you, if you wanted.
All right, this is the annual report.
That's the annual, right?
So code enforcement reports in our packet.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I do with this.
We'll just recognize it.
Just read it.
The minutes will recognize that a report was provided for the 2022 annual report and the January 2023 report. So the minutes will just reflect that.
We need a motion to accept this or not?
If you want to make a motion, have you reviewed it completely yet and are you comfortable with that? I don't, there's no requirement.
And Tim, I guess you're next.
I have 2 items. The first one is the set date for a public hearing for the local law that would implement some changes that the New York State Legislature made and Governor Hochul signed to the volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker property tax exemption. Right now, our code allows for a 10% or $3,000 exemption on here's property taxes. This would, whichever is less, 3,000 or 10%. This would remove the $3,000 and it would just be a 10% of assessment on those properties. And the one variable that this board can consider is whether or not you want the person to qualify for 2 to 5 years. So it could be anywhere between 2 and 5 years. I have set it at 2 years. In other words, if you've been a volunteer fireman or ambulance person for 2 years, then you would qualify for the exam. I know that most towns have set it at 2. Onondaga County passed it earlier this last week, and that was 5 years. I think they're going to reconsider it and do a 2-year qualification. So that is the local law that's before you. We have to opt in order to make it effective, and it simply amends and modifies our existing law to reflect the state changes. This now,
So we would be setting a public hearing and that we could fit in to the next meeting, next regular meeting.
and of course, each municipal government would have to pass its own. So this is just for the town of Pompey. So it would be for the town taxes. The county has already done it. The school district, I read something where today from our assessor that says we didn't see where the school district would be able to do it. I don't think that's correct. I think the school district can do it. It might be in a different section of law. So, but that would be a separate resolution of the school district.
For each of the school districts
Correct.
in the town.
Does anybody have any questions for me about the local law?
I personally take the New York State exemption on my New York State tax return
Right.
because I get a better deal.
Yes, so there are two exemptions, there is this exemption, and then there is a credit
Credit.
under the personal income tax in New York State of up to $200.
$200 per firefighter, so.
So you could take the credit, or you could take this,
But not
you
both.
can't take both.
I need a motion to set the
Yep.
public, so I'll make a motion that we set the public hearing, the next meeting, March 14th. For the firefighters.
6:35, Nikki?
Is that the number?
Yeah.
I second it.
Discussion. Not all in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is the approval of the Delphi Falls Fire Department contract, which is an annual contract we entered into. At Delphi Falls will provide fire protection within the Delphi Falls Fire Protection District. I reviewed the contract. It's a simple contract. It's the one we have every year, and it's for $194,000 to provide that fire protection within the Delphi Falls Fire Protection District.
There's a motion that we kept this.
Approve the contract and
It's to
authorize the supervisor to sign.
authorize the supervisor to sign the contract.
I'll second it.
You second it? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
That concludes my items.
Very good. Thank you.
You.
I think Ann is still unable to.
Briefly, what the details she's provided. Apparently Jamesville Beach is an alternative location for the swim program. It just came up. But at a cost of $175 per day. They will be available for 30 days of lessons, and that apparently is cheaper than what we were paying Casnovia in prior years. So that would be the lead contender, I believe, because I don't think we have any other options. Totally. Was limited to 50,
And there was, we're still investigating the Janesville thing, and we hadn't heard back.
that's, no, we just heard tonight. You just heard that, Jamie?
No, I mean, that was the schools.
Oh, yes,
School was another.
So if I've heard correctly, there are three possibilities right now.
Can I
Calling,
look at the writer?
Driver have a pool? No, I mean the lake.
I think Renee did actually.
I think she did, Holly would have accepted us, and this is for the swim program for the people, we're trying to find a way to still offer it and have it. There are some options. Tully will let us go in on their thing, but it's, at this point, it's limited to 50 people, and judging by the number we've had, that would be a pretty tight limit. Janesville Beach looks like it's becoming the better possibility. So that one there is a real feasible, good possibility, and there's still the outside chance of the Janesville school, which is gonna
Apparently
be,
junior school is a no.
the school is no.
Yeah.
All right, so we're basically we're narrowing it down. I guess it's gonna narrow down pretty quickly, but
it seems like that's gonna have to happen, say, within the next month, because they have to go about the process of hiring
Lifeguard,
lifeguards.
swimming star.
So I know I'm not gonna take any action tonight, but hiring is tough, so March might be a good time to get out.
But it sounds like a very feasible possibility that the swim program will be able to happen and is most likely gonna happen at the Janesville Beach. That looks like we can, that one there. I mean, I know I went over it some with Renee before. We actually would run it like we had did the one in Kaz. But it's gonna be at the beach, it's gonna be outside and they would have, she said something about there would be one of their lifeguards has to be there, so we would have to pay them. And get the dates and the times right that would work along with the Onondaga County and whatever. And it's gonna be other things that we have to provide because through the county, but it looks like that's probably gonna be our best bet. And because it would allow for the number of students that we probably have, and it's still fairly close. It's as close as well, it's not just over the town line, no different than going to Kaz really, so that's probably what we're gonna pursue. The cost and stuff sounds like might even be cheaper, so hopefully it works out. Very good. I guess anybody that's interested in the swim program, keep your ears open, because all of a sudden we may have information on that.
Good. Supervisors. I need to just make a clarification because I just talked to the accountant. There seems to be a discrepancy on the Horn Delphi Fire Protection District amount. I think we budgeted 180 and this amount says 194,000. So I just want to note for the record that there is that discrepancy on it. I think we'll let the supervisor figure out what is the correct number. I just want to clarify the record tonight. That we're not paying 194,000 if the budgeted amount was 180 and that is what we have available. So just wanted to clarify.
And so-
we'll leave that up to the supervisor to reconcile.
And is she able to just resolve that herself?
Yes.
If, for example, it has to be 194.
Well,
No,
that's what the contract says.
right.
And I haven't independently verified that that is a correct number. So
That's the number the department asked for. That I can verify.
I don't, what's in the budget is probably
Yes.
what's most important. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So under the supervisor's report, Renee asked me to provide this information about home occupancy regulations. She intends to be forming a committee to consider the issue and draft a new local law to submit to the board. Members will include both town officials and town residents. For those interested, notice will be posted on the town's website and on the town's Facebook page. The town board's not ready to consider this matter. It's pretty complicated. There are many factors to consider, but the formation of maybe to advise the town board is what Renee intends to do. Okay, under new business, there is a need to declare scrap a 2-drawer file cabinet that had previously been used by Tom Chartrand to declare it as scrap. My understanding is that it is rusted and not worth bringing from Tom's office. He would retain the file cabinet. I have that right.
Yeah, so if there's no value to it, we would declare it as no value and then allow him to keep it there. It's probably be more expensive to move it back to town hall. So we would just need a motion to declare that. Wow.
Declare it as scrap and allow Tom to retain it.
I'll make a motion to
declare that.
declare that filing cabinet scrap.
Or of no value.
Or of no value.
Diane,
I'll second.
second. Discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Done. We also need a motion to approve the supervisor's attendance at the Association of Towns Annual Conference Meeting. I believe it is in Brooklyn, February 20 through 23. The only cost to the town will be the $150 registration fee. Renee intends to stay with family down in New York City.
Make a motion, please. For attendance at the Association of Towns.
Association of Towns.
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Okay, that wraps up the items we had on the agenda. I think we're ready for public.
First person is Scott Armstrong, Pompey Center Road.
Thank you very much. Scott Armstrong, grew up at 3837 Pompey Center Road. It's nice coming home. I've made a career out of working with municipal government. This is the first time I've ever addressed my hometown of Pompey, New York. So, thank you. My mother is still a resident at 3837. I do have future financial interest in the property, and I'm here to discuss the immediate neighbor to our north, which we believe to be 3857 Pompey Center Road. Property was acquired by a Michael Skeel, who has built and modified on that property since ownership in the past year, which we believe to be far in excess of the town laws and zoning guidance for that property. So we have some concerns that we want to get on the record tonight in the interest of the future of the town and how to handle these types of situations. For starters, a pole barn was built in very close proximity to the property line. And while the property line might not be at issue, the 29-foot height of the building far exceeds the current zoning for what's allowed there. The original stated purpose for that building was storage of his own gear for his numerous businesses and properties. But my mother, I believe, will be speaking right after me, has a lot of evidence of advertised commercial use of that property, which it is not zoned for. Some of the commercial uses that we're aware of is indoor and outdoor storage, commercial wood cutting, wood for sale on the property, and has taken a single family residence and converted it to a two-family building with ample viewable from the street evidence that is now a two-family home when it's a single family residence. Pompey Town Codes has recently been out. I know Mom contacted them originally as far back as August. I realize you've had some personnel changes in that department. We appreciate that. And I will say that the current codes office has been high quality and responsive, and we appreciate that. However, a number of things were improved, including a permit. We don't believe a variance was ever sought because we've never been properly noticed that there was, and it would have required a variance. And as we understand it, the height of the building and the proximity to her property and her house far exceeds any normal standard of variance that would have ever been approved had one been sought. We don't believe it had. So our questions are this: quality of life, impact on future property value, clearly exceeding allowable zoning that the town has established as its law, and just changing the nature of a residential rural neighborhood with multiple commercial uses on a property for which the owner is not even a resident of the property. So our questions are these: how was this allowed to happen? Does the town currently have the proper enforcement tools, regulatory tools, review tools to properly address commercial efforts of this nature in a residential area? What remedies available, if any, to my mother, because certainly it will impact property value. And she's got some photos that she'd like to leave as a matter of record for the board as well. This is her greatest asset. She's a retired woman with pretty standard income for her age bracket. And those concerns are many. So we wanted to get it on the record to kind of set a marker for the town and future considerations. I know this is an area that has been talked about both formally and informally among the board. We appreciate your consideration. But we want to make sure we get on the record with some of the concerns we have there. So thank you for your time.
Thank you
very much.
And I know Tim Barrow is aware of this.
Yes.
And right. Thank you.
Next is Joan Armstrong.
I'm not as good at public speaking as my son is, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm a little nervous. I have a letter that I sent to Tim Barrow in August. The day after, some neighbors sent me this ad for commercial space next door to me and prices. I'd like, please give me the courtesy of looking at all of these pictures that I have, because there's 3 different ways that he's trying to make money. And also what this impact has been on my property. I made some notes on that. Right before he did this, I spent $16,000 on having landscaping done. Now I get no sun on my front property because of this monstrosity of a building that's right next to me. People say to me, how could the town of Pompey let this happen to you? I mean, it's everybody feels sorry for me. I don't know how the town of Pompey let this happen to me. I've owned this property since 1969. I'm 75 years old. I was 22 years old when I moved into this property. I've raised 3 kids there. 9 grandchildren have played on this property. I was a Jersey girl that came up here to Casanova College. I've learned how to have a big garden, how to can things, how to make applesauce. I loved this property. We took a cement stucco ranch when we bought this house. And now it's a 2-story colonial that I'm very proud of. How did this happen to me? I don't know. The town of Pompey allowed this absentee landlord who has no way of, he has no plans on living in this house. He's made it into a 2-family house. He told me he planned on making this into a 2-family house. He came swaggered up to my front door and told me he was making it into a 2-family house. He told me that he was chopping up all this wood, and the trees, you can't see them, but I can see them from my dining room window and my bedroom window. He's got all these huge trees that he chops up, and he told me that he's sure my neighbors have used chainsaws, splitters, tractors, and chippers for property maintenance. Never did the Reliers use those next to me in all the years that they lived there, not outside my bedroom window. So I would like to know why the town of Pompey, first of all, never did a certificate of occupancy for this building. So it just was like approved, I guess, and he never had that certificate of. It's too high on the one side. It was supposed to be not over 15 feet. It's 29 feet high. This side next to my property. And he never went for a variance. He just thinks he can get away with anything. He doesn't live there. And I've been there for over 50 years, but yet I can let him not live next to me, just move in there with whoever he wants and make this money. And my property value has gone way down. How is this fair? I guess that's all I need to say.
We're listening.
No,
We're listening.
yeah, it's, it sounds, what was the,
Shaking.
I'm so sorry for that. What was the first time that you that you noticed there was an issue and brought it, was that, I'm just
I brought it
asking.
to your first assessor who isn't here anymore.
Okay, so you did bring it right up then?
Right up.
All right. And that was when they were still building it? When they were, because I know it was just built, a lot, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was up 3 weeks. I mean, it went up so fast, but when he was having it surveyed to go up there, and they were very quiet about what they were doing. I went over there to ask. And his brother was there, and they were very secretive about what they were doing.
But I will tell you, I had a conversation with the brother. He did not disclose at the time he was his brother. He just feigned ignorance about anything about the project, that he was just hired to do the job.
I would I know that Renee is keenly aware of the concerns.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first called Renee, I never got a call back. So this has been going on for a long time.
I personally apologize for this stuff here, and I know that the zoning guy now is well on this, trying to figure it out, and I can't explain how, you know.
Well, I just wonder, how would any of you like this have happened to you and had your property value go down so much, and everybody who comes to your house feels sorry for you because of what has happened?
And the pictures show it, and I've, you know, since I've become aware of it, I drove by and taken extra looks myself, and it's a, you know, it sounds like we have a real issue on the hands here. I don't know how it got approved or whatever, you know. Sounds like we got.
Right, and I do think that at this point, Tim Barrett needs to do a full review and explain to both Renee and to the board where, you know, what happened, and we need to seek what the remedies, if remedies are in order, what are those remedies? I do think it would be helpful. You listed some very, very good questions that you wanted answered. If we had a copy of those, I didn't write them down alone. You got them? Okay. Well, we should be responsible for answering each of those questions back to you as we do the investigation.
We're happy to provide that in writing. You can type it up and have it to you tomorrow if you'd like it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to keep the pictures?
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Do you mind?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you again.
Next is Nathan Podkamener. Am I saying that correctly? Podkamener.
Yes, evening. Thanks for the opportunity just to address the board here. Appreciate it very much. Nate Podkamener is my name. My wife Jane is here. We live at 3966 Kinder Lane, Janesville address, which is right off of Frank Long Road. So I'm here. Reason I'm here is about the solar, but I'm not going to criticize or comment on the solar. But what I was thinking, that I just want to know if it would be possible and appropriate if the planning board, who's already reviewed that project, could make a slight presentation to inform people at the next meeting, that either the next meeting. So as we gather information on the SWIP and the drainage and all that, we could also gather the information of what's past the history of the planning board and what their finding was, because I'm sure they've had extensive discussions about that project. Then we're a little bit more educated in analyzing ourselves to have appropriate comments. That's my request.
I'm gonna look at Tim for.
To invite the planning board to.
Well, the planning board has heard this. There are minutes to the meeting of the planning board that should be transmitted to the town board so that we have a sense of what the planning board's thoughts and concerns were. And the planning board is certainly welcome to come to a town board meeting and participate as you determine is appropriate. But planning board can't meet on the town board's meeting. There's two that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a little presentation so you could see the flavor of what they looked at, why they looked at it. And
I think all the planning board meetings are,
They should be on the website. I think.
they're taped and they're available for anybody to view.
Great.
So,
okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
next is Jane.
I live at the same place. I guess my questions on the solar, I'm a neighbor. I've never heard from these people who say they notified neighbors. None of my neighbors that I know of have ever heard from these people. I'm not aware of anybody that's heard from them in terms of their proposal. I'm very concerned with the drainage. They'll be addressing that, I know. I'm very concerned about the road at Frank Long Road, and I've never heard anything. It's a very fragile road, and I'm sure Mr. Wake can attest to that.
and I'm not sure how they would ever handle that traffic. You know, they offer plantings. What's the caliper of the trees? What's the height of the trees? You come over Frank Long Road, how tall does a tree need to be to conceal solar panels that are 15+ feet in the air?
Happens in the wintertime,
Right.
no leaves, you see
Right.
everything. in the wintertime.
You know, so those are all issues that certainly in my initial investigation in the last few hours of becoming aware of this project, have they addressed any of those issues in an appropriate manner? I'm sure there are a lot of other questions that'll come up in the next process. I'm very glad you're taking the time not to have a public hearing next month, because there are a lot of people that are out of town that I'm sure that would like to be here and address many of these issues. I equate this project to a 30-acre industrial building that's being put in a residential area in a farmland area. And so I ask that you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Next is Evan Dentes, 6987 Frank Long Road.
He's left.
He's left.
Okay. Next is Emmanuel Pottis, 6922 Frank Long Road.
Good evening, board. How are you? My name is Emmanuel. New to the neighborhood here about 2 years. Great town.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, we choose to raise, I have 2 young boys with my wife and I. We choose to raise our kids in a rural setting, and we're very thankful that Pompey exists. So just a beautiful neighborhood. Just to echo what the other 2 individuals who lived on Frank Long or off of Frank Long. We're just here for information, right? We don't know the project, you know, when the developer comes in and presents, we're like trying to take pictures of the back of the easel and things like that. So I don't know if the town clerk has any documents you can share with us. Again, I know you're probably very busy. I had called, left 2 messages. I think with the deputy, I think it was her second day there, so she was a little flustered. I was asking a bunch of questions. Can you help us gather information similar to what the gentleman said here? I don't know if there's a PDF. I was here when the planning board was meeting and everybody was talking, and even the EC board, we watched that virtually. They were talking about a digital copy of the presentation. I don't know if you could help us with
The
that.
application, the entire application is on the website now.
Okay, do you know when it was uploaded? I mean,
I think it went up yesterday or the day before.
okay, so I'm sorry, because I
Yeah, yeah,
checked a few weeks ago and
Yeah.
I just know it wasn't there.
I'm assuming that everything that you're looking for is there.
Great, so I'll definitely thank you for sharing that. And again, just trying to get the information out here. You know, we love where we live, but you know, this is America and people have property rights. So, you know, I'm kind of in the middle here with this whole project. I am literally 1 parcel in from where the location is. So you know, thank you. When time comes, we have a public hearing to kind of vet our concerns. I guess, Mr. Pateshi, I don't know if this is for you or not, but do we know who the lead agency is going to be in regards to a seeker when time comes for this project? Is it going to be the board? Is it someone else? Is it
The town board.
the town board? Okay. Do you intend on doing a full seeker or is it a short seeker?
Well, it'll probably be a long form seeker.
Long form.
Because I think they've submitted a long form seeker.
Okay.
So
Just as a point of information, could you define that word?
sure, seeker is the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Every municipal body has a responsibility to go through the State Environmental Quality Review Act criteria to determine whether or not a project will have a significant environmental impact. So we will be going through that process. It's going to be a dual process if the process moves forward. So the first process is the overlay district, which is essentially the zone change. And there will be a determination as to whether or not the zone change itself, which would then allow a solar farm on that property under the overlay district, will have a significant environmental impact. That will be done in conjunction with a decision on a site plan. So we might have actually 2 processes, probably won't, because the zone change is essentially the site plan. So it's going to all look the same. So once a determination is made on the zone change, it will probably be also effective on the site plan. But we'll see as the process plays its way out.
Thank you for addressing it. Just want to, get a good handle on it. Again, looking forward to reading the information that was posted recently. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Loomis. He actually took the time, constituent services, to come to my driveway, knock on my door. And I was just flabbergasted, to be honest with you. I was, in the middle of work, and I took the time to speak with him for almost half hour, I believe, right? And just thank you. Look forward to meeting the other board members, just to try to, see what everybody else is thinking. Again, I'm new to the community. I read, kind of the mission statement of the community, and it's just a beautiful place. And I'm all for doing the process correctly. I'm holding reservation as to, which way, and I'm also a neighbor as well, right? So I'm going to be directly affected here. I just want to gather facts, right? I don't, not emotional. It's all about facts and doing things correctly and just seeing where the facts take us, not where hearsay, he said, she said, and things like that. But I just want these people to be good neighbors. That's my biggest thing. And so as a comment, if we can do anything to make sure we hold them accountable to being good neighbors, not just setting up shop and then leaving and selling to someone else. And then if we have concerns as neighbors, we're calling another state, another country for that matter. I've seen some Canadian entities come in and really acquire these things. So just concerned is what it is, but I want to just deal with facts, emotions aside, and just kind of going from there. So I look forward to the whole process. And that's all I really have for now. So thanks for allowing us an area, an ability to kind of comment about it, but just information at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next, Mark Robinson. Road.
Neighbor of Joe and Armstrong, and you see this building all the time also. But we brought another two businesses that have formed within a mile of all three of these to your attention over a year ago, and absolutely nothing has been done. So what purpose is it to file for a permit to do something? And the code, they stop work orders for what? It does no good in the town of Pompey. You know what I mean? You guys, it's almost like a laughing stock because you can get away with anything you want to do in town of Pompey. This guy's been running a business on number 2 road for over a year now, and we brought it to your attention back in February of last year, and nothing's been done about it. It's not right.
Well, thank you for your comment. I know that has been an issue in front of the board. And I guess, Tim, I'm going to look to you.
Sure. So let's recognize the fact that the people who enforce the town codes, the code enforcement officer, we've gone through 3 sets of code enforcement officers in the last 3 years.
Yep.
So
Bob Rodriguez, just when he came the first time.
So there hasn't been the consistency of enforcement that we would have liked, but that's really not something that the town board can control. We hire people to do a job.
A runaround. There's nothing ever being done.
We can only, right now, we have a code enforcement officer who I think's been employed for the town for the last 5 months, 6 months, maybe 5 to 6 months. So he has to get up to speed. He has to try to understand what happened because he wasn't there when all these things took place. And then we have to figure out what the best remedy to these issues are. So,
But yeah, you can go ahead and stop work orders on construction projects and not these businesses. I don't understand that.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, what stop work order you're referring to.
A pool, it's in the report. There's a pool that they put a stop work order, houses, but yet they can't do a stop coast, commercial sites.
Has it changed? Is it, I mean, and I've, I have actually wanted to stop. I've drove by lots. Like the first times I've got there, we got the pictures and stuff with, like these flatbed trucks stopping and there's things outside. I've been driving by and I know that it's from the visual from the outside, it's cleaned up at least versus the pictures that you showed us at first. I know that the codes guy is doing it. I know things are probably still going on and it's a very tricky thing that he's trying to still work through, but it hasn't improved at all. I mean, from my driving by.
Shipping out every day.
Is that, I don't know, like, is it now just in like the small, are there big freight trailers coming in and out? Is it down to the small?
Freight trucks lately.
And that's what I was, so there's,
That doesn't matter. Business is a business in a residential area.
and that's what the code guy is working for it, but I do, and I.
Just get a run around. You know what I mean? Nothing's been done.
And then that also is part of the reason we're doing the home occupancy things. We're trying to figure out how to deal with that, because these issues.
How long does that take?
They do come, well, and it's taken a while because it's hard to. Legalize how many times the Amazon truck can stop or a UPS truck, because they.
The service garage that just opened up.
A what?
A service garage that just opened up. He's got the registration number right out front.
Where's that one?
That's right on Papa Center, just down the road from Joan Armstrong. There's a house that sits way back in there. It's all woods in the front. All you see is a driveway, but if you look back by the garage, there's a registration number right there. And it's all within a mile, 3 businesses within a mile.
Okay. And I don't mean that we should dismiss your comment. I think we're taking it very seriously.
Well, I hope somebody does someday, because otherwise everybody's gonna be running businesses out of it.
Is that it?
That's all. That's Mr. Robinson was the last speaker.
Anyone from
I have
Dan?
comments. Dan Gorman, in regards to the solar project, I think I agree with Bill and have major concerns on decommission projected costs. I think this town should have an outside estimate. Also, again, how does the town benefit from the project? Thank you, Dan Gorman. And then Dale Sherman. Question, isn't storage for business vehicles make it a commercial building? And Dale Sherman again, I live across the street from Joan Armstrong. Why did none of the neighbors get a letter asking for input regarding the required variances?
All right.
That's all I have.
Good, thank you. I want to say that there was those are a number of very emotional issues presented, and I respect the manner in which the concerns were raised, and thank you for bringing them forward. There's a need for the board to move into executive session. I think we need a motion to consider that.
That's a collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, that's a collective bargaining agreement.
Make a motion.
Thank you for addressing it. Just want to get a good